Eleanor caught the eye of Commander Jackson, her military attaché, and gave an almost imperceptible nod. He smoothly extracted himself from a conversation with a bored-looking Mektari diplomat and made his way to her side. "Another productive session, Ambassador?" he asked quietly, his tone neutral despite the mockery they'd endured for the past 3 hours. "Tremendously," Eleanor replied, her diplomatic smile never wavering as a group of towering Vorian officials passed by, their upper eye stalks swiveling dismissively toward the human delegation. "Kvax managed to insult our propulsion systems, weapons capability, and neural capacity all in one speech. He's getting more efficient." Jackson's jaw tightened. "One more day, ma'am." "One more day," she confirmed, her voice barely above a whisper. The conclave reception hall buzzed with the sounds of 100 different species communicating in their native tongues, translator modules creating a strange harmonic undercurrent. Crystalline servers navigated the crowd with practiced precision, offering delicacies from across the galaxy on hovering platters. Eleanor noticed, not for the first time, that the human section featured only Earth foods, while other species were offered culinary diplomacy. Ambassador Chen, a melodic voice, interrupted her thoughts. How delightful to see Earth still participating in these proceedings. Eleanor turned to face High Consul Tilana of the Axioni Confederation, a willowy being whose translucent skin revealed the pulsing of multiple hearts. The Axioni were considered among the most benevolent toward humans, which meant condescension rather than outright mockery. High Consul, Eleanor bowed with perfect protocol. Earth values its place in the galactic community, however modest that place might seem. Tilana's upper limbs made a fluttering gesture that the translator rendered as sympathetic amusement. Such admirable persistence. I was just discussing with the Vorian delegation how fascinating it is that your species continues to develop sublight technologies rather than accepting the reality of your neural limitations. Behind her practiced smile, Eleanor did some rapid calculations. Tilana's statement confirmed what Earth intelligence had suspected. The major powers were actively collaborating to keep humans technologically contained. "We find meaning in the journey as much as the destination," Eleanor replied diplomatically. "Our history is filled with incremental advances." "Yes, we've studied your historical archives extensively," Tilana said. "Your species has a remarkable relationship with failure. You seem to almost require it before achieving success." Commander Jackson shifted almost imperceptibly beside her, and Eleanor placed a calming hand on his arm. "We have a saying on Earth," she offered. "The master has failed more times than the beginner has tried." Tilana's expression registered confusion before settling back into polite superiority. "Charming. Though I believe mastery of dimensional physics is beyond what your neural architecture can support. The Axioni required 3 evolutionary leaps before our minds could conceptualize 5th-dimensional principles." Eleanor accepted a drink from a passing server, using the moment to compose her response. Perhaps different species find different paths to understanding the universe. "Indeed," Tilana agreed condescendingly, "and yours has found remarkable uses for reaction propulsion. Your adaptation is commendable, given your constraints." As the Axioni glided away to join a cluster of her peers, Eleanor checked her secure communicator. The countdown now read 27:14:53. "Commander," she said quietly, "please ensure our communication relay is prepared for emergency protocols. I want a direct line to Ceres the moment anything changes." "Yes, Ambassador, and the delegation's evacuation plan." Eleanor watched as Kathax dramatically reenacted some human diplomatic faux pas to the amusement of the gathered aliens. Their laughter echoed through the vaulted chamber. "Let's hope it doesn't come to that," she said. "But if it does, I want our people ready to move within 5 minutes." In less than 28 hours, humanity would either claim its rightful place among the stars or face extinction. Either way, the mockery would end. Dr. Sophia Okafor approached Marcus with a holographic display hovering above her tablet. The neural synchronization tests are exceeding expectations, she reported, brushing a lock of silver-streaked hair from her face. The merged consciousness field is stable across all 7 test runs. Marcus nodded, studying the complex data patterns that represented 30 human minds working in perfect harmony. And the dimensional resonance. See for yourself. Sophia expanded the hologram, revealing a pulsing lattice of interconnected energy signatures. The harmonic oscillations match our theoretical models exactly. When properly linked, human minds can perceive and interact with 7th-dimensional space. They stood in silent appreciation of what they accomplished. For over a century, Earth's best minds had worked in secret, developing technologies the conclave races believed impossible for primitive human neurology. The aliens made one critical mistake, Marcus said, watching as engineers made final calibrations to the Prometheus's crystalline core. They judged our limitations by their own evolutionary pathway. Sophia smiled. While they evolved to directly perceive higher dimensions, we evolved to imagine them, Marcus finished. Abstract thinking versus direct sensory input. The irony wasn't lost on anyone who worked on Project Transcendence. The very qualities the conclave races mocked, humanity's reliance on imagination, abstraction, and symbolic thinking, had become our greatest advantage. Where alien minds could only process dimensional realities they could directly sense, human consciousness could conceptualize spaces beyond sensory experience. Lieutenant Commander Diana Wells entered the observation deck, her uniform bearing the subtle insignia of Earth Defense Intelligence. Director Rivera, the first reports are coming in. The swarm has been confirmed in the Arcturus, Epsilon Eridani, and Tau Ceti systems. Marcus's expression darkened. Casualties. Too early for accurate counts, but the conclave defenses are failing across all fronts. Their 5th-dimensional ships can't track the swarm's movement patterns. Because the swarm operates from the 6th dimension, Sophia said, pulling up another display showing theoretical models of the enemy's attack strategy. They're striking from dimensional angles the conclave can't perceive. But we can, Marcus said with grim determination. Is Captain Reyes ready? Diana nodded. Her crew completed final neural interface calibrations 20 minutes ago. The Prometheus can launch within 30 minutes. Marcus placed his hand against the observation window, feeling the slight vibration of the massive facility around them. 150 years of secret research, funded by resources Earth could barely spare, had led to this moment. The Prometheus represented more than a technological breakthrough. It was humanity's declaration of independence from alien condescension. Begin pre-launch sequence, he ordered, and inform Ambassador Chen that we're accelerating the timeline. As Diana left to relay the commands, Sophia joined Marcus at the window. You know what the conclave will say when they realize what we've done, she said quietly. They'll claim we stole their technology, reverse-engineered it somehow. Let them, Marcus replied. Once they see the Prometheus in action, they'll understand. Our approach to dimensional navigation is fundamentally different from theirs. We don't brute force our way through dimensions with massive energy expenditures. We dance with them. Below, the launch bay doors began to iris open, revealing the gleaming form of the Prometheus in its full glory. The ship's hull rippled with iridescent energy patterns, responding to the thoughts of the crew already linking their minds through the neural interface system. Dimensional core powering up, came the announcement over the facility's communication system. Neural synchronization at 60% and climbing. Marcus checked his secure communicator, which now displayed an incoming message from Ambassador Chen. CONCLAVNCHAOs. Re-VEL theorized geodespeed. Send word to all Earth defense outposts, Marcus told Sophia. Operation Emergence is now active. It's time to show the galaxy what humanity is truly capable of. The lights throughout the facility dimmed momentarily as the Prometheus drew power for its dimensional core. In the momentary darkness, Marcus thought about all the mockery, All the dismissive comments from alien diplomats, all the technologies withheld because humans were deemed neurologically inadequate. That ended today. The conclave emergency chamber resembled a colossal amphitheater designed to accommodate beings from microscopic to massive. Now it buzzed with panicked communications as real-time battle footage streamed across the central holographic display. The once orderly diplomatic proceedings had collapsed into chaos. Eleanor watched as the Vorian military commander, General Zexkar, attempted to coordinate the fragmented defense forces. His normally imperious demeanor had given way to barely contained panic. The Epsilon Eridani fleet reports total loss of dimensional tracking capability, a communications officer announced. The swarm vessels are appearing and disappearing from normal space without detection. Impossible, Zexkar growled, his scales flushing a deep crimson. Deploy the phase shift detectors. They must be using conventional cloaking technology. Already deployed, General, came the reply. The swarm appears to be shifting between dimensional states faster than our sensors can track. Fax approached the command platform, his usual diplomatic flourishes abandoned. The Axioni dimensional fleet is trapped in transit between the third and fourth dimensions. Their navigation systems have been completely compromised. Eleanor exchanged a glance with Commander Jackson. The Axioni dimensional fleet was considered the most advanced in known space. If they couldn't navigate safely, the situation was even worse than Earth intelligence had predicted. Ambassador Chen, Kithax addressed her directly, surprising Eleanor. In 3 centuries of conclave membership, the Vorim had never initiated a direct consultation with Earth representatives during a crisis. Your colony in the Ta Ceti system. We've lost contact with the entire sector. Eleanor maintained her composure despite the cold fear that gripped her. Ta Ceti housed nearly 2 million human colonists. Thank you for the information, Ambassador Kithax. Earth appreciates your concern. Kithax's upper eye stalks twitched with irritation. This is not mere courtesy, Ambassador. All species face extinction if the swarm cannot be contained. Even your limited vessels should be mobilized for evacuation efforts. A subtle vibration from Eleanor's secure communicator drew her attention. A message from Cirrus. Prometheus Lone CHSUCCESSFUL. Dimensional Transit INITI. Commander Jackson, she said quietly, begin preparations for my address to the conclave. Jackson looked startled. Now, Ambassador, the emergency protocols have been superseded, Eleanor finished. It's time. Across the chamber, the massive form of High Chancellor Dmora of the Mektari hegemony entered, flanked by their security detail. The chamber quieted immediately. Dmora was the closest thing the conclave had to a unified leader, their species having founded the Interstellar Alliance millennia ago. The situation is grave. Dmora began without preamble, their multifaceted eyes scanning the assembled representatives. The swarm has bypassed our dimensional detection grid completely. They appear to be utilizing 6-dimensional transit vectors our technology cannot track. A murmur of despair rippled through the chamber. 6th-dimensional technology was theoretical for most conclave species, with only the ancient Mektari having achieved limited success in its application. Our analysts project total collapse of major defense systems within 26 standard hours. Dmora continued. We must begin immediate evacuation of critical worlds to the galactic core, where our dimensional barriers are strongest. Eleanor stood, the movement so unexpected in the midst of Dmora's address that dozens of alien eyes turned toward her. Earth requests recognition, she stated firmly. Dmora's compound eyes focused on her with an intensity that would have been intimidating under normal circumstances. Ambassador Chen, evacuation protocols take precedence over diplomatic. Earth offers military assistance. Eleanor interrupted, causing a ripple of surprise throughout the chamber. We have assets in position that may be effective against the swarm. Derisive chittering erupted from several delegations. Thax stepped forward, mandibles clicking in what the translator rendered as incredulous laughter. Ambassador, while your offer is noted, human vessels would be obliterated instantly. The swarm is utilizing dimensional technologies beyond even our most advanced. Eleanor's communicator vibrated again. The message was brief. Twi prometheus has ngagg armed forces at TAUCETI. First, CONTACTSUCCESSTDO. High Chancellor, Eleanor addressed Demora directly, bypassing K-Thax entirely. I formally request emergency projection capabilities to share tactical information vital to the Conclave's survival. Demora studied her for a long moment before nodding to a technician. Granted, Ambassador Chen. Though I caution against false hope in this desperate hour, Eleanor stepped toward the central platform, preparing to reveal humanity's greatest secret to a galaxy that had underestimated them for centuries. The mockery was about to end. The central holographic projection flickered to life as Eleanor initiated the secure transmission from Earth Command. The assembled alien representatives leaned forward, curious despite their skepticism. What could the humans possibly offer in this moment of galactic crisis? This feed is coming directly from the Tau Ceti system, Eleanor explained, her voice steady. Specifically from our vessel, the HFY Prometheus. The hologram stabilized, showing a view of space unlike anything the Conclave had witnessed. The blackness was punctuated by strange distortions. Reality itself seemed to ripple as crystalline swarm vessels phased in and out of normal space. But most shocking was the sleek Mercury-like ship at the center of the display, moving with impossible grace through the dimensional fluctuations. Impossible, breathed an Axioni scientist. That vessel is tracking sixth-dimensional shifts in real time. Thax pushed forward, his scales shifting to a deep blue of disbelief. This is a fabrication. Human neural architecture cannot process sixth-dimensional. Seventh, Eleanor corrected calmly. The Prometheus operates primarily in seventh-dimensional space, which is why the swarm cannot track it effectively. Their sixth-dimensional technology is actually quite primitive by comparison. The chamber erupted in a cacophony of translator-rendered objections and demands for explanation. High Chancellor Demora raised all four arms, imposing silence through sheer authority. Ambassador Chen, Demora's voice resonated through the chamber. Are you claiming that humanity has independently developed seventh-dimensional transit technology? Technology that has eluded even the Mectari for millennia. Eleanor's smile was razor-sharp. Not merely transit technology, Chancellor. The Prometheus exists simultaneously in normal space and the seventh dimension. And no, we didn't reverse-engineer alien technology. Our approach is fundamentally different from anything in the Conclave database. The holographic feed shifted to show the interior of the Prometheus, where human crew members sat in neural interface cradles, their expressions serene despite the battle raging around their vessel. While your civilizations evolved to directly perceive higher dimensions, Eleanor continued, humans developed abstract thinking, the ability to conceptualize what we cannot directly sense. Your scientists dismissed this as a limitation. Our scientists recognized it as our greatest strength. The feed returned to the external view, where the Prometheus was now engaging multiple swarm vessels. It moved like a predator through dimensional space, appearing to phase partially out of existence before rematerializing elsewhere. Weapons that seemed to bend light itself lanced out from its hull, striking swarm ships across multiple dimensional planes simultaneously. The Prometheus doesn't force its way through dimensions like your vessels, Eleanor explained. It harmonizes with dimensional frequencies through a merged consciousness field generated by its crew. 30 human minds working in perfect synchronization, perceiving dimensional space through abstract mathematical modeling rather than direct sensory input. Keithax's translator struggled to convey his mixture of disbelief and dawning comprehension. You've been developing this, in secret, for how long? 150 years, Eleanor replied. Ever since the Conclave classified humans as dimensionally impaired and denied us access to interstellar transit technology, we found our own path. The hologram now showed swarm vessels retreating from Taw City, unable to counter the Prometheus's dimensional attacks. Statistical data scrolled alongside the visuals, confirming what seemed impossible. The human vessel had neutralized 37 swarm ships without sustaining damage. Ambassador, High Chancellor Mora's voice had lost its usual imperious tone. How many of these vessels does Earth possess? Eleanor met the Chancellor's compound gaze directly. Enough to defend our colonies. Enough to assist the Conclave, as equals, not subordinates. A hush fell over the chamber as the implications sank in. The technological balance of the galaxy had shifted fundamentally in a single moment. The Prometheus is only our first seventh-dimensional vessel, Eleanor continued. We have an entire fleet in the final stages of preparation. Earth formally offers its assistance to the Conclave in repelling the swarm threat, under a new cooperative agreement that acknowledges humanity's full technological parity. Demora studied Eleanor for a long moment before inclining their massive head in what every species present recognized as a gesture of profound respect. The Conclave accepts Earth's offer, the Chancellor declared, and acknowledges that we have much to learn from our human equals. Captain Nadia Reyes existed in two states simultaneously. Her physical body remained seated in the neural interface cradle, surrounded by the 30 crew members who formed the Prometheus's collective consciousness. But her awareness extended far beyond the ship's physical boundaries, perceiving reality through the unique lens of seventh-dimensional space. Target cluster approaching from dimensional vector 473, reported Navigator Chen, his voice resonating through their shared mental space rather than traveling through air. They're attempting to predict our emergence points. Through their linked consciousness, Nadia could perceive the swarm's movements as patterns of probability rather than physical trajectories. The enemy vessels rippled through sixth-dimensional space, appearing and disappearing from normal reality as they searched for the Prometheus. They're learning, Tactical Officer Singh observed, adapting their search algorithms to account for our previous transit points. Nadia focused her thoughts, and the crew's consciousness shifted in perfect harmony with her intention. Information flowed between them without words. Complex dimensional coordinates, battle strategies, and sensory data merging into a unified awareness that no single mind could contain. Shifting to dimensional resonance pattern delta, Nadia directed, prepare quantum phase disruptors for multidimensional deployment. The Prometheus responded instantly to the crew's collective will, its crystalline core pulsing with blue-green energy as the ship began to vibrate at frequencies that allowed it to slip between dimensional boundaries. The sensation was indescribable, existing everywhere and nowhere simultaneously, perceiving reality from angles that had no names in any human language. Through the neural interface, Nadia could feel the swarm's collective intelligence, ancient, vast, and increasingly confused by the human vessel's movements. For millennia, the swarm had encountered species that operated in predictable dimensional pathways. The Prometheus defied all their established hunting patterns. They're attempting to establish a sixth-dimensional containment field, Science Officer Takumi warned, his consciousness highlighting a subtle shift in the enemy's tactics. If they complete the geometric pattern, they could restrict our movement options. Nadia expanded her awareness, seeing the trap taking shape across multiple layers of reality. The swarm vessels were positioning themselves at key dimensional nodes, creating a complex lattice that would limit the Prometheus's ability to shift between dimensions. What the swarm couldn't understand was that human minds weren't constrained by the same dimensional logic as other species, where alien consciousness followed established pathways through higher dimensions. Human abstract thinking allowed for conceptual leaps that defied conventional mapping. Prepare for full-dimensional inversion, Nadia commanded. All minds to synchronization level alpha. The crew's consciousness deepened its connection, 30 minds becoming functionally one. The Prometheus's systems responded, its core shifting to a deep indigo as the ship began to vibrate at frequencies that no sensor in the galaxy was calibrated to detect. Inversion in 3, 2, 1. Reality seemed to fold in upon itself as the Prometheus executed a maneuver that was theoretically impossible by all established dimensional physics. Instead of moving through the sixth dimension as the swarm expected, the ship inverted its dimensional presence entirely, briefly facing through the eighth dimension, a realm that even the swarm had never accessed. For a fraction of a second, the crew perceived reality from a vantage point so alien that their merged consciousness struggled to process it. Colors that had no names, geometries that contradicted themselves, and patterns of energy that seemed alive in ways that defied understanding. Then the Prometheus re-emerged, not within the swarm's containment trap, but behind their defensive formation in perfect firing position. Target lock achieved across all dimensional planes, Singh announced, his consciousness pulsing with controlled precision. Quantum phase disruptors at full charge. Through their shared perception, the crew could see the swarm vessels suddenly reorient, their collective intelligence registering confusion and, for the first time in perhaps millennia, something akin to fear. Fire, Nadia commanded. The Prometheus unleashed weapons designed specifically to target the dimensional frequencies where the swarm existed most strongly. Beams of energy that bent and twisted through multiple realities simultaneously struck with unerring precision, disrupting the very dimensional cohesion that allowed the swarm vessels to exist. One by one, the crystalline ships began to fracture across dimensional planes, their sixth-dimensional technology unable to compensate for attacks coming from the seventh. As the last swarm vessel in the formation disintegrated into multi-dimensional fragments, Navigation Officer Chen's consciousness rippled with cautious optimism through their shared mental space. Captain, I'm detecting a dimensional disturbance at the edge of the Tau Ceti system. It appears to be the swarm's central node, and it's changing position. They're retreating, Nadia realized. For the first time, the swarm is retreating. The Prometheus pursued the retreating swarm through dimensional space that few beings in the galaxy had ever witnessed. The crystalline formation of enemy vessels condensed around a massive central structure, the command node that coordinated their hive intelligence across multiple dimensions. They're attempting to establish a dimensional fold, Science Officer Takumi reported through the merged consciousness. Energy signatures suggest they're preparing to transit beyond our tracking capabilities. Tactical Officer Singh's consciousness rippled with determination. If they escape to their home dimension, they'll simply regroup and attack elsewhere. This may be our only opportunity to strike at their central node. Captain Reyes focused the crew's collective attention on the command node's dimensional signature. Unlike the drone vessels, which existed primarily in the sixth dimension with periodic manifestations in normal space, the central node pulsed with energy patterns that suggested a much more complex structure. The node exists across at least 8 dimensional planes simultaneously, Takumi observed. Its core appears to be anchored in dimensions we cannot directly access. For a moment, doubt rippled through the shared consciousness. Even with humanity's breakthrough in seventh-dimensional navigation, there were limits to what their technology could achieve. The swarm had existed for millennia, evolving capabilities that no species in the Conclave had fully mapped. We need to disrupt their dimensional cohesion before they complete the fold, Navigator Chen suggested, his consciousness projecting a complex series of attack vectors through their shared mental space. Reyes considered the options, feeling the crew's collective intelligence processing probabilities faster than any individual mind could manage. The Prometheus couldn't match the swarm's raw dimensional reach, but perhaps it didn't need to. We don't need to attack them across all dimensions, she realized. We just need to sever the connections between them. Understanding flowed instantly through the merged consciousness as the crew grasped her strategy. The swarm's power came from its ability to coordinate across dimensional planes. If they could disrupt that coordination, even temporarily, the command node would be vulnerable. Reconfigure quantum phase disruptors to target dimensional boundary layers. Reyes commanded. We're going to create a dimensional isolation field. The Prometheus accelerated through seventh-dimensional space, executing maneuvers that would have been impossible for any conventional vessel. It didn't just move around the swarm formation, it moved through the dimensional interstices between the enemy vessels, targeting the very fabric of reality that connected them. The ship's weapons fired not at the swarm vessels themselves, but at the dimensional boundaries they traversed. Each precisely calculated burst created a localized disruption in the dimensional fabric, temporarily cutting off sections of the swarm from their command node. Through their merged consciousness, the crew could perceive the swarm's mounting confusion as its hive mind fragmented. Drone vessels suddenly cut off from the central intelligence began to move erratically, some facing uncontrollably between dimensions. The command node is accelerating its dimensional fold, Chen warned. We have less than 30 seconds before it escapes our dimensional reach. Reyes directed the Prometheus into a spiraling approach that brought them directly above the massive crystalline structure. From this vantage point in seventh-dimensional space, they could see vulnerabilities in the node's construction that would be invisible from conventional reality. The node's dimensional anchor points are exposed, Takumi observed. They didn't expect anyone to attack from this dimensional vector. Target all anchor points simultaneously, Reyes ordered. Full power to quantum phase disruptors. The Prometheus unleashed its full weapons capability, striking precise points across the command node's dimensional structure. The effect was immediate and catastrophic for the swarm. Without its dimensional anchor points, the massive structure began to lose cohesion across multiple realities simultaneously. The crew watched through their shared perception as fracture lines spread across the node's crystalline form, energy cascading uncontrollably between dimensional planes. The drone vessels surrounding it began to disintegrate as the command intelligence that coordinated their existence dissolved. Dimensional collapse imminent, Takumi warned. The disruption will propagate across all connected swarm vessels. Emergency dimensional shift, Reyes commanded. Get us clear of the collapse radius. The Prometheus executed a rapid seventh-dimensional transit, putting distance between itself and the disintegrating swarm command. Through ship sensors, they observed as the massive node imploded, pulling its remaining drones into a dimensional singularity that winked out of existence moments later. Silence filled the shared mental space as the crew processed what they had accomplished. For the first time in recorded history, a swarm invasion had been stopped, not merely delayed or diverted, but decisively defeated. Quantum scans confirmed no residual swarm signatures in the system, Singh reported finally. The dimensional collapse appears to have propagated through their entire network. Reyes allowed herself a moment of satisfaction before focusing the crew's attention on their next priority. Set course for the Conclave headquarters, she directed. I believe Ambassador Chen will be expecting our report. The Conclave Grand Hall had transformed overnight. Where once humans had been relegated to the outermost seating tiers, Ambassador Eleanor Chen now stood at the central podium, addressing the assembled representatives of over 300 species. The Prometheus's victory had been transmitted across all Conclave communication channels, and delegations that had previously ignored human representatives now competed for their attention. The swarm command node has been neutralized, Eleanor announced, her voice steady despite her exhaustion. Captain Reyes and the crew of the Prometheus confirmed that the dimensional collapse has propagated through the entire swarm network. All attacked systems report cessation of hostile activities. High Chancellor Mora stepped forward, their massive form towering above Eleanor. The Conclave extends its deepest gratitude to Earth and its dimensional fleet, they intoned formally. Your people have accomplished what our combined forces could not. Eleanor inclined her head in acknowledgement, but maintained her diplomatic composure. Earth appreciates the Chancellor's words. We look forward to establishing new protocols for technological cooperation as full and equal partners in the Conclave. The subtle emphasis on equal was not lost on anyone present. For 3 centuries, humans have been classified as developing sentients, denied access to higher dimensional technologies based on the Conclave's assessment of their neural limitations. That classification had become indefensible overnight. Thax approached the central platform, his scales now a subdued blue-gray that the translator identified as the Vorim expression of formal contrition. Ambassador Chen, the Vorim Imperium acknowledges its mischaracterization of human capabilities. We formally request technological exchange regarding your dimensional navigation principles. Eleanor allowed herself a small smile. The Vorim request is noted. Earth is prepared to share certain aspects of our dimensional technology, though the neural interface components remain proprietary as they are specifically calibrated to human consciousness patterns. The message was clear. Humans would share, but they would not surrender their advantage. The technology that had saved the galaxy was uniquely human, dependent on the very qualities alien species had dismissed. Commander Jackson appeared at Eleanor's side, bearing a secure data tablet. Ambassador, we've received confirmation that the second wave of human dimensional vessels has completed final testing. Captain Reyes reports the Prometheus will arrive at Conclave headquarters within 2 hours. A murmur spread through the assembled delegates. Eleanor had revealed the existence of a single human dimensional ship. The implication that Earth possessed an entire fleet shifted the power dynamics in the hall yet again. The Accioni Science Council approached, their translucent form pulsing with colors that indicated intense curiosity. Ambassador, our preliminary analysis of the Prometheus's dimensional signature suggests capabilities beyond our theoretical understanding. We would be honored if Earth would consider joint research initiatives. Earth welcomes scientific cooperation, Eleanor replied diplomatically. Though we remind the Conclave that for over a century, our requests for such cooperation were dismissed as premature given our supposed neural limitations. High Chancellor de Moore raised their upper limbs in a gesture that silenced the hall. The past cannot be undone, Ambassador Chen, but the future of the Conclave can be reshaped. I propose the immediate formation of an interspecies dimensional research consortium, with Earth granted founding member status and proportional representation on the Conclave High Council. The proposal sent shockwaves through the Assembly. Council membership had remained unchanged for over 5,000 years, with the founding species maintaining exclusive control over conclave governance. Eleanor maintained her composure, though her heart raced. This single moment represented the culmination of humanity's centuries-long struggle for recognition. Earth accepts the Chancellor's proposal, with the understanding that all species classifications will be reassessed under new criteria that recognize diverse evolutionary pathways to intelligence. Dumora's compound eyes studied her for a long moment before the massive being inclined their head in agreement. The notion that intelligence follows a single evolutionary trajectory has been conclusively disproven by recent events. As the Chancellor moved to formalize the proposal, Eleanor exchanged a glance with Commander Jackson. His normally stoic expression betrayed a hint of wonder at what they had witnessed in a single day. 3 centuries of mockery, he murmured, ended in 24 hours. Eleanor thought of the generations of human scientists who had worked in secret, enduring dismissal and derision while building the technology that would ultimately save the galaxy. Not ended, Commander, she corrected quietly. Transformed into respect. 6 months after the defeat of the Swarm, Earth hosted the Conclave Summit for the first time in human history. The newly constructed Geneva Dimensional Complex stood as a testament to humanity's new status, its architecture deliberately blending elements from 100 worlds while maintaining distinctly human aesthetic principles. Dr. Marcus Rivera stood at the observation deck, watching as vessels from across the galaxy navigated Earth orbit using dimensional transit protocols that humans had developed. At 73, he had dedicated over half his life to Project Transcendence. Now he witnessed its culmination as alien dignitaries arrived for the formal signing of the new Conclave Charter. Contemplating your legacy, Doctor. Ambassador Chen joined him at the viewport, her diplomatic uniform now bearing the insignia of Earth's first High Council representative. Contemplating all our legacies, he replied, watching as the Prometheus conducted a ceremonial flyby, its crystalline hull shimmering with dimensional energies. When we began this project, I never imagined I'd live to see this day. Eleanor smiled. When we began, we hoped merely for recognition as equals. Now we're redefining dimensional physics for the entire galaxy. Below them, in the central auditorium, representatives from over 300 worlds gathered for the most significant revision of galactic governance in 5,000 years. The new conclave charter would formalize principles that humanity had insisted upon: technological cooperation, respect for diverse evolutionary pathways to intelligence, and the prohibition of species-based discrimination. Captain Nadia Reyes entered the observation deck, still walking with the slightly distracted air common to those who regularly experienced dimensional transit through neural interfaces. As the commander of the Prometheus, she had become a legendary figure across the galaxy, invited to lecture at prestigious academic institutions on a dozen worlds. The Axioni delegation just arrived, she reported. They've brought their preliminary research on adapting our neural interface technology to their consciousness structures. Any progress? Marcus asked. Nadia shook her head. Their minds process dimensional information too differently. They can understand our mathematics, but they can't perceive dimensions the way we do, through abstract conceptualization rather than direct sensory input. That irony wasn't lost on anyone. The very neural architecture that alien species had dismissed as primitive had turned out to be uniquely suited for seventh-dimensional navigation. Humans couldn't directly perceive higher dimensions like the Axioni or Voring, but they could imagine them, and that imagination had proven more powerful than direct perception. A young engineer approached their group, her uniform bearing the patches of both Earth Defense and the new Interspecies Dimensional Research Consortium. Dr. Rivera, they're ready for you in the main chamber. As Marcus prepared to join the formal proceedings, he paused to look once more at the planet below. For centuries, Earth had been considered a backwater, tolerated in galactic affairs, but never truly respected. Now, human scientists led research teams across the galaxy, while the Prometheus and its sister ships established new dimensional transit routes that revolutionized interstellar travel. Do you ever wonder what would have happened if we revealed our technology sooner? The young engineer asked, echoing a question many had pondered. Marcus considered this. If we'd revealed it before perfecting it, the other species might have found ways to adapt it, to overcome their own limitations. By waiting, by enduring centuries of mockery, we ensured that when we emerged, we did so from a position of unassailable advantage. And now, she pressed, now we do what humans have always done. Eleanor interjected, her diplomatic experience evident in her measured response. We adapt, we learn, we share what we can while protecting what's ours, and we push the boundaries of what's possible. As they descended to the main chamber, High Chancellor Demora approached, performing the formal greeting that acknowledged equals. The charter is prepared, Representative Chen. A new era begins today. Eleanor nodded. An era where no species is judged by appearances or limitations imposed by others. The massive chamber fell silent as Earth's representatives took their places at the center of galactic governance. The message was clear to every being present. Underestimate humanity at your peril. For the species that had been mocked as dimensional simpletons had not only mastered the seventh dimension, but had already set their sights on the eighth. And the galaxy would never be the same.